Hello to all. For class 10 students, today we will be discussing the topic circulatory system, which is part of the chapter life process. The circulatory system basically is a transport system, and the main important functions are to transport all the substances. It also helps in supplying oxygen from the lungs to the tissue, as well as transporting the substances absorbed from the digestive system to the tissues. It helps in removing the carbon dioxide from the tissues to the lungs and removes the waste products from the tissues to the kidneys. It also helps in regulating the body temperature as well as distributing hormones and various other chemicals, water and minerals to various parts of the body. The system is made of heart and the blood vessels. Heart acts as the pump and the blood vessels act as the channels. So main blood vessels are arteries, veins and capillaries. Arteries are the blood vessels which carry oxygen-rich blood away from the heart to various tissues and organs of the body, whereas veins carry oxygen-depleted blood or carbon dioxide-rich blood from the tissues to the heart. The arteries of the body split into fine, narrow branches or microscopic capillaries. Capillaries have very thin walls and allow the exchange of substances between the body cells and the blood. Several capillaries join to form successively wider branches and they are called veins. Veins carry oxygen depleted or carbon dioxide rich blood back to the heart. The blood is the main carrier of oxygen and other respiratory gases. The normal total circulating volume is about 8% of the body weight. Some tissues enters another system of closed vessels called lymph, which forms a lymphatic system, which we will discuss later. First of all, in the circulatory system, we will be discussing heart. Heart is a muscular pear-shaped organ the size of a clenched fist. Heart is covered by a layer of membrane called pericardium. Heart is protected by bony rib cage and is rarely damaged by a blow. Heart is four-chambered and is divided into four chambers. Upper two chambers are auricles and ventricles, and the lower chambers are also auricles and ventricles. These chambers are divided so that to prevent the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. The heart is located in the chest. Heart functions like its position. It's central to life. The heart has to function non-stop, then only the body can function. Heart mainly is helping in supplying the continuous supply of blood. Without this supply, the body cannot function. This is the internal view of the heart. Here you can see the red colored portion is carrying the oxygenated blood and the blue color or the purple color portion is carrying deoxygenated blood. Pulmonary arteries and pulmonary veins form the exception, which forms the pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary artery carries the oxygen depleted blood, whereas pulmonary veins carry oxygen rich blood. Pulmonary arteries are carrying oxygen depleted blood from the lungs to the heart, whereas veins are carrying the opposite. So the pulmonary arteries and the pulmonary veins forms the pulmonary circulation. The right atrium and the right ventricles are separated by the tricuspid wall, whereas the left atrium and the left ventricle are separated by the mitral wall or the bicuspid walls. These walls prevents the outflow of the blood. The heart acts as the pump, as I have told earlier. The heart receives deoxygenated blood on the right side and pumps it to the lungs to get oxygenated. Oxygenated blood returns from the lungs to the left side of the heart, which pumps it to the rest of the body. This forms the systematic circulation. Here you can see the heart is functioning as a pump. From the lungs, the oxygen-rich blood is entering the right side, and then this blood from atrium to the ventricle is going to the entire body and the tissues. Whereas from the left side, the blood is from the body, the blood is coming which is oxygen depleted or carbon dioxide rich, which is going towards the lungs, where it will be oxygen rich, and then it will go back to the heart and it will be supplied to the body. So deoxygenated blood is flowed into the right upper chamber of the heart, which is separated from the lower chamber by one-way wall. The deoxygenated blood is transported by two veins, superior and inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava brings blood from the upper part of the body, whereas inferior vena cava brings blood from middle and lower part of the body. When the pressure in the atrium is greater than that of the ventricles, the valves open and the blood flows from atrium to the ventricle. So the ventricle gets filled by the blood. The valve closes once and more, and this marks the beginning of the contraction of the ventricle. The ventricle has a very thick, powerful muscular walls. The right ventricle contracts, forcing blood out through the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery takes the deoxygenated blood to the lungs, where it will get oxygenated. As most of the blood in the ventricle is pumped out, the pressure in the ventricles drops and the valve at the opening of the pulmonary artery closes. The ventricle relaxes. This cycle goes on and on once the blood from the atrium enters the ventricle. In case of oxygenated blood, the blood is flowing from the lungs through the pulmonary veins into the upper chamber on the left side of the heart. The sequence of event is similar to that described of the incoming blood in case of deoxygenated blood, which enters the right side of the heart. So as the pressure in the left atrium increases when the blood is entering and it is passing, so the valve opens. The bicuspid or the midrium valve opens and the blood flows from the left atrium to the left ventricle. So as the ventricle of the left side gets filled with the blood, the one-way valve closes. So the ventricle contracts, the valve at the entering of the aorta opens and the blood is pumped through the aorta to be circulated throughout the body. The blood ultimately enters the right side of the heart in the deoxygenated condition. This contraction phase is known as systole. Now the arterial systole is followed by the ventricular systole. The phase in between contractions of relaxation and filling is called diastole. During diastole, all chambers of the heart are in relaxed condition. This is a normal heart where you can see how the blood flow is taking place. The red portion is the oxygen-rich blood and the blue color portion is the oxygen poor or depleted blood. Here you can see how the blood is going to the lungs, which is the deoxygenated blood is going to the lungs from the pulmonary veins. So it gets purified and oxygenated blood is going towards the tissues or the organs of the body. Now we will discuss, as we have discussed the heart, now we will be discussing the second main part of the circulatory system, which is the blood vessels. So blood is transported into three main types of blood vessels: arteries, veins and capillaries. Veins have a valve in which maintain one-way flow of blood to the heart. Arteries have more vessels than the veins. So first we will discuss the arteries. Blood is ejected from the left ventricle through the aorta. This large artery or the aorta is 2.5 cm in diameter in the adults and has numerous branches, so that oxygenated blood reaches the different parts of the body from the aorta. Whenever blood flows through an artery, its flexible wall expands at each heartbeat, and this can be felt as a pulse. The pulse is usually taken at the wrist, where the artery passes over the bones. The blood also exerts pressure on the vessel walls. This pressure is necessary for circulation to take place. The pressure has a rhythmic fluctuation. The pressure is maximum during systole or the contraction phase, and it is least when the ventricles are in the relaxed phase or the diastole. The blood pressure hence has two readings, systolic and diastolic. The walls or arteries are lined with smooth cells or endothelium. Around this is elastic tissue and the muscles. The outer layer is made of connective tissue. The elastic and the muscle layer makes the arteries very efficient in pumping blood throughout the body. Arteries in the later or the old age becomes less efficient. That's why the efficiency of the heart decreases in case of old people, some of them. Fatty mineral deposits accumulate in the valve and on inner side of arteries, and the walls becomes thickened and less elastic. So there are different causes of the fat deposition in the arteries. One important cause is the consumption of a diet which is rich in saturated fat comprising of butter and ghee. These deposits ultimately leads to blockage of the artery. In case the arteries which supply the heart muscles are affected, it results in ischemic heart attack and even leads to a more prominent heart attack, which even results in death. Many parts of the body have alternative source of blood supply. In case the main route of the heart supply or the blood supply is blocked, then alternative routes come into use to supply the blood. The diameter of the arteries can be varied, hence altering the amount of blood supplied by it. One of the important factors which changes the vessel diameter is the control by the nerves. Sympathetic nerves, for example, simultaneously causes narrowing of the blood vessels in the skin. Arteries carry blood which is rich in oxygen, hence the blood appears to be red in color in case of arteries. If the artery is cut, the blood gushes out. Next, we'll discuss the capillaries. Arteries are dividing into successively small branches which are known as very fine microscopic capillaries. These are minute vessels with very thin wall. The main important role is waste material from the cells, such as carbon dioxide, can diffuse very easily from the cell to the capillary. Several capillary join to form a small vein which forms ultimately a large vein. Veins are the third blood vessels of the circulatory system. Veins are transporting or carrying the blood which is depleted of oxygen. Venous blood hence contains more of carbon dioxide and waste products picked up by the tissues. It is now known that they are capable of constricting and enlarging and storing large quantities of blood and making it available when required. Thus, veins also plays a very important and significant role in cardiac output. They are provided with valves. Veins have valves which allow the blood to flow in only one direction. That means only towards the heart. Veins are carrying deoxygenated blood. Hence, if a vein is cut, then dark red blood oozes out. The third important topic of this system is blood pressure. When the circulating blood presses against the walls of the blood vessels, then a pressure or a force is generated which is known as blood pressure. This pressure is greatest during the systolic or the contraction phase, when the heart and its vessels are continuously contracting. The maximum pressure is known as systolic pressure and the least pressure is known as the diastolic pressure, when all the blood vessels and all the chambers are in the relaxed state. Blood pressure varies from person to person as well as from time to time in the same individual. It is influenced by general health, heredity, age, activity of the individual, position of the body as well as emotional and physical state. The blood pressure is determined by cardiac output and the peripheral vascular resistance. If the heart has to pump with more force and also a greater rate, the cardiac output increases, thus increasing the blood pressure. Also, if the arteries are very narrow, then the pressure required to pump the blood throughout has to be more. So even during the stress response, the sympathetic nerves from the nervous system increases the rate and force of the heartbeat. Sympathetic nerves also causes the arteries supplying the skin to narrow, hence increasing the peripheral resistance. Hence, the stress response during about a sympathetic mediated increase in the blood pressure. The recording of the blood pressure is done by sphygmomanometer. It is conventionally recorded as a systolic pressure over the diastolic. A normal young adult may have a blood pressure of 120 by 80 millimeter Hg. This means the systolic pressure is 120, whereas the diastolic is 80. This considerable variation within the normal range is quite possible. A systolic pressure but above 140 millimeter and diastolic below above 90 millimeter should be investigated for further problems. That results in hypertension. Hypertension can result in serious complication and should be treated and evaluated periodically. Now, how the normal activity of the heart is controlled by centers in the lower brain stem. These are known as the vital centers. There is one center which has a stimulating effect, increasing the heart rate and the force of contraction. Another center has inhibitory effect, which reduces the heart rate and also the force of contraction. So the former, which increases the force of contraction throughout the sympathetic nerves, whereas the latter acts via the parasympathetic, which lowers the heart rate, acts via the parasympathetic nervous system. So there are special receptors which send important information to the brain. These receptors lie close to the important blood vessels, the aorta or the carotid artery which supplies the brain, and detect the level of the stretch of the blood vessels. In case of receptor sense, the blood vessels are stretched and activate the inhibitory center so that the cardiac output decreases and the blood vessel is no longer stretched. Anxiety and anger are also the two emotions which are known to speed up the heart rate. Now there are some special regions where we are going to discuss the circulation, like the brain. The brain is extremely sensitive to oxygen deprivation. A occlusion of its blood supply produces unconsciousness in a short period of 10 seconds. If deprivation is continued for 120 seconds, the small stores of energy are used up and irreversible damage to the brain takes place. For this reason, the regulation of the blood supply to the brain has unique features. Throughout these blood vessels do have a nerve supply. This does not normally modify the vessel diameter. The vessel shows the property of auto-regulation. When the carbon dioxide rises, the vessels dilate. This increases blood supply, helps to wash away the carbon dioxide. The last topic of the circulatory system is the portal circulation, where the blood is going to be transported to another major organ, which is the liver, through the portal veins. All the digested food materials take place through, all the digestion takes place through the small intestine, and these from the digestive substance enters the capillaries. These capillaries join to form a portal vein which enters the liver, and this portal vein is going to carry the blood which is rich in absorbed substances from the small intestine. The substances which are absorbed are stored in the liver. Whenever required, they are broken down and they enter the circulation via the hepatic vein. It joins the inferior vena cava, hence transports blood to the right atrium. So this was one of the main important component of the transport system, circulatory system. And the second important system of the circulatory system is the lymphatic system. What is lymphatic system? Tissues are bathed in tissue fluid. All the tissues are bathed in tissue fluid, and they consist of diffusible constituents of blood as well as waste material. Some tissue fluid have to return to the capillaries, to the venous, and the remainder diffuses to the more permeable wall of the lymph capillaries, forming the lymph. So all the substance which enters the lymph capillaries forms the lymph. Both the system, cardiovascular as well as lymphatic system, have to supply the flow to the body, and both of them are supplying different types of fluid. Lymphatic system, unlike the circulatory system or the cardiovascular system, does not have closed circuit and a central pump like the heart. It is devoid of the central pump. So main components of the lymphatic system are lymph vessels, lymph node, lymph organs, such as example is spleen or the thymus, and lymphoid tissue like tonsils. So this is a diagrammatic representation where you can see in this person, you can see the lymph vessels, and lymph is at the certain region of the lymph vessels are the lymph nodes. Then you can see the lymph organs as well as the lymph tissues. So main important function of lymphatic system is to return the tissue fluid to the bloodstream. It also helps in absorbing and transporting fat and fat soluble vitamins from the intestine and kills the microorganisms. As I have explained, lymph is a clear colorless liquid with a composition similar to blood plasma. Okay, it is clear, colorless. It is nothing but a clear watery blood plasma leaked out through the capillary walls. It contains oxygen, proteins, glucose and WBCs. Lymph contains WBCs, RBCs are not present inside the lymph. All the cells bathed in this fluid receive their nutrients and oxygen from it. Tubular vessels transporting lymph back to the blood ultimately replaces the volume lost during the formation of interstitial fluid. Lymph movement occurs despite low pressure due to peristalsis walls and compression during contraction of adjacent skeletal muscles. So this is the origin of the lymph. The cardiovascular system, as it is pumping blood throughout the system, but some of it cannot return, some of the fluid cannot return to the body cells. The lymph system picks up 60% of the fluid dropped at the cellular level, and this tissue fluid is then picked up by lymph capillaries, and the tissue fluid we are discussing is lymph. So lymph is alkaline, pH 7. Now discussing some of the important functions of lymph. Lymph acts as the middleman which transports oxygen, food materials, hormones to the blood's body cells, and it brings carbon dioxide and other metabolic waste from the body cells to the blood and finally pours back to the venous system. Blood cells are kept moist with the help of lymph. Because lymph contains WBCs, it helps in destroying all the microorganisms or the foreign particles in the lymph node. Now coming to lymph vessels, lymph capillaries join to form the lymph vessels. So lymph vessels are ultimately connected to the blood vessels so that it can perform its function. Lymphatic vessels travel along all the blood vessels, but they are absent from bones, teeth, bone marrow and the central nervous system. So lymph capillaries are forming the lymphatic vessels. In lymphatic vessels there are some swellings which are known as lymph nodes. So lymph nodes are again forming the lymphatic vessels, and it forms the lymphatic trunks and the collecting duct, and it enters the subclavian vein, left and the right subclavian vein. So lymph nodes, which are the swellings in the lymph vessels, are widely distributed, but they are not present in the central nervous system, and they are composed of lymphoid tissue. The main function of lymph nodes is to filter the lymph before it is returned to the blood, and it prevents the foreign particles from entering the bloodstream, because it is mainly producing lymphocytes or the WBCs, which helps in destroying the foreign particles. Thank you.